Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. After many delays caused by yours truly, we have with us Doug Hall, who has one of the most interesting companies and professions. I would call it a profession because I think it is that we've had in a long time. So, Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to it.
Well, Doug, as we ask all our guests, first tell us a little bit of your background, which I found fascinating. Then tell us about your company and what you do. And finally, how people can reach you.
Well, my name's Doug Hall, and I started out as a chemical engineer of all things, and then went into marketing at Procter & Gamble, where I got really focused on innovation and rose to the rank of master marketing inventor. And then a lot of years ago, I retired from the corporate life and created my own small business called Eureka Ranch, which does inventing for people around the world, helps large corporations around the world create ideas. In the process of that, I got working with a company called Edrington that makes a Scotch whiskey called the Macallan, the most expensive whiskey in the world. And in the process, I've been working with them now for many, many years. And a few years ago, I said, I had learned this simple thing that 70% of the flavor comes from the wood when it comes to whiskey. I said, well, how hard can it be? And so next thing you know, I started running some experiments. That gets followed by us creating a craft whiskey company. And then when you start to look at the whiskey business, you start to find that it's challenging to make money because of all the taxes you have to pay the state and the feds and all the rest of that stuff. So I basically recreated it into what we call into custom bourbon, where people can come and they can create their own custom bourbon, and have now put that together into a package that we're franchising. And we opened up our first woodcraft bourbon blender on Whiskey Row in Louisville just a short time ago. And the idea is really quite simple. It's to enable everybody to have their own personal bourbon. And it's really returning bourbon to its roots. In the 1800s, before brands, everybody had their own custom bourbon. And so that's what we're doing. And it's kind of simple. A lot of crazy stuff it takes to make it happen. But it's Woodcraft Bourbon Blender, and we're at bourbonfranchise.com. Simple bourbonfranchise.com.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. You said 70% is of bourbon is what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It's from the interaction with the wood. So when the spirit goes into the barrel, it's pretty much white dog. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, doesn't have any color. And the wood interacts with it that develops the flavor and the smoothness and the elegance. And so what we do is we finish whiskey, our woodcraft finishing, with different woods to give different flavors. And then people are able to take those 6 different bourbons and put them together to create the taste that they like. If they want a more classic taste, a smoky taste, a cleaner taste, a fresher taste, whatever it is that they're looking for.
But does the proof change as well?
No, the proof stays the same. It's 90 proof, 45% alcohol. Pretty much a classic super premium bourbon is what we're base starting from. But it enables people to truly have their own personal taste. So you don't have to, spend $10,000 or $20,000 on a barrel pick. You can basically have your own single barrel by the bottle.
Okay, let's back up here. So you have a franchise and you open in Louisville. What does the franchise consist of, and how does it work?
Well, the franchise consists of a collection, like with all franchises, an operating manual, systems, specialized equipment, and supply. So what we do is we set the people up so that they can do it. It's called a soft brand franchise, in that there's your name for your local distillery, a woodcraft bourbon blender, just like you see at hotels, a Hilton hotel kind of thing. So that way we can support you in the local name. But you get the system for leading the experience with people. It's a 45-minute experience they go through to do the blending. You also get equipment, and the equipment includes a blending machine, which literally will take, when the person's done their recipe, they enter it into their phone, and there's a completely automated system that goes through, creates a recipe, creates their label with their name on it. You scan the QR code and you fill the bottle in 30 seconds. So that it's very efficient. So all of that systems, all of the operational systems from the back of the house, like you get with most franchises, we've worked that all out. And we even have another machine that goes on your bar, which we cite as a teaching bar, where people can answer 13 questions. If you go to mybourbonwizard.com, you can see it. And it literally, an artificial intelligence app creates your custom recipe. So if people have 45 minutes, they can go through the experience and do it manually, or in just a couple minutes, they can answer the questions, and eureka, they get themselves something to taste. And if they want it, they click a button and they can have a bottle of it.
But you have to have a local liquor license in order to do this. Am I correct?
That's right. You have to go through, and that's part of what we take people through and help them with, is you have to basically become a distilled spirit producer, a DSP. And it's a straightforward process. It just takes time, to work through the maturations.
Well, let's talk about a state like New Jersey, which I know, which has myriad the difficult laws and myriad local laws. Could I go in and like do it in my house and then give it out and distribute it locally, or for that matter, can I put it in the mail?
The answer, I would have to look up the specifics for New Jersey, but the likelihood of being able to mail it is very small because we don't have approval for sending. This is generally done, these franchises are generally put in high volume tourist locations. And a way to think of it as, we're on Whiskey Row in Louisville, right on the main street, right beside the Louisville Slugger Museum. And so we've got good traffic there. So you want to put it in a high traffic location, because this is the kind of thing that on vacation, people can get bored. They're looking for something to do. And this is kind of like Build-A-Bear for adults, where you get to go in and make your own bourbon.
That's an absolutely great line, Build-A-Bear for adults. But, I'm listening to you and I'm saying, I've got friends that I could create different bourbons for different friends and make them terrific Christmas gifts. But I'd have to buy them and then mail them out myself, correct?
Right. The DSP, there is a few states that you can send it to, but they're pretty limited with regards. That's all changing. The laws are opening up, but they aren't right now.
And how much does the franchise cost?
The franchise cost is $50,000, and that includes the training and all of that. And the total cost, primarily with the build out, because it's the build out of making the space. It can be done in about 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, though, so it's not a ton of space that you need for it. And with the build out and everything, we estimate it's around $500,000 to be in the business. In which case, then you're making, custom bourbon. You can create your own brands. You can do all of that stuff. And by the way, that compares to create a distillery. It'll cost $4 million. Is what it's generally thought to be. So, $500,000 versus $4 million, it's pretty decent.
Well, how would you sell a pint or a liter of this bourbon?
It generally is sold in 750 ml. So that's I guess it's called a fifth, but it's standard. And the custom bottles are the suggested price is $45.
Wow. So
it's very reasonable. And what we find, because we don't want to keep it as my precious, we want it to become part of your regular stream, and we want to build repeat customers and people doing it, and it seems to work.
But So if I'm hearing correctly, the best place to put this is at a high traffic tourist location or
That's right.
someplace like Atlantic City.
Oh, it would crush it in Atlantic City. It would be stupid, the volume she would do in Atlantic City.
Yeah, yeah. But having lived in New Jersey most of my life before moving, um, the liquor laws in New Jersey are really crazy. But I look for other states where it's looser. But where would you do it, for instance, in Pennsylvania, where all the liquor is sold through state stores?
Well, we're in Ohio where it's sold through state stores too. So the laws vary state by state, and I've got a chart here somewhere on them that shows the charts. And generally, there's a most all the time as a craft distiller, there's a thing set up. So like, even though whiskey is all sold through the state of Ohio, in Ohio, it's set up that a craft distiller can sell 4 bottles to a consumer at a time. We can sell it direct.
Well, I gathered drinkers. Since I'm not a drinker, I'm into a territory I don't understand. But how do I do know there's like Maker's Mark and various ones like that. But how do people decide whether they want a smooth or a dark or whatever? How do people know what to ask for?
It's a really good question, Don. It really is. And one of the things that took us a lot of time as part of my work over the years, I've done a lot of work with Walt Disney, with Imagineers and people all over the place. And so I've learned a lot. And so part of it was whether it's the live experience or whether it's the digital experience where you're doing the app, is we had to build in cues to educate people, to take them through the process. So when you go through the live experience, we take you through a tasting, and you record your thoughts on the various oaks or cherry wood or maple wood. And then we teach you how to put the layers together so to make a complex and basically an ultra premium bourbon. And so the idea is to make it non-intimidating and easy access. So there's no intimidation factor, because we found that some people were very intimidated by it. However, what they do know is they know if they like something or they don't like something. And so we really teach them how to do that and build their confidence in the process as they do it. And of course, the app is set up to account for that uncertainty, because we've built a bunch of these apps over the years for various corporations, and it can have a lot of intelligence.
Well, so the only, in essence, it's a local product that really should be in places where there's high traffic, if I'm hearing you correctly.
That's right. That's right. This is like a wonderful thing to do. And whether it's, in a city, near the convention center or something, or where tourists are, obviously in Atlantic City, it would be an epic location. You can probably put 2 or 3 of them in there because of the size of it. But it is the bourbon drinkers, and bourbon is, of course, on just like a rocket ship. The sales of bourbon is doubling, double digits year after year after year. For the bourbon drinker to be brought in, and think of it this way: normally, if you go to a distillery, they're going to get you to taste to get you to pick one of theirs. What we're doing here is flipping it around. We're teaching you how to make yours. So it's a very different experience, and consumers just, I mean, when you demystify it and you make it simple, they just go crazy. I mean, we have people who come every time a guest. We've become one of those, because we also do it here in Cincinnati where we're located. And it's the same things happening down in Louisville. Is people who have guests come in, we are on the must-do list. And so people come 4 and 5 times, because every time relatives or friends come to visit, they go, you got to come make your own bourbon, because it's so damn cool. It's so damn cool.
No, it's a great idea. Oh, it makes me almost wish I drank, but I don't drink. And uh, but it seems to me, for instance, uh, I'm going to try your app, if nothing else, just to see what it's like. I should have done it before this show, but it's really interesting. What made you decide to do this, Doug?
I've always been a big one on, to use the convoluted term, democratizing. And whether it's with my Eureka Ranch, making it possible for everybody to innovate, or whiskey, making it possible for everybody to have their own bourbon without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars. I just like the idea of bringing it to the masses that, you don't have to be a millionaire to have your own bourbon. And really good bourbon, by the way. These are all 92 to 95 point bourbons that you're blending with. I mean, you can't F this up, okay?
Mm.
I mean, you're starting from outstanding quality stuff. In fact, at our distillery, our Dexter brand is one of the 12, according to Ultimate Spirits, one of the 12 best bourbons in the world.
Mm.
And so, I mean, we're talking about high quality stuff that you're working with. It's one of those ideas, Don, that, you're sitting ideas and you're saying, wouldn't it be neat if everybody could have their own, not just, Johnny Walker's family and Jimmy Beam's family and Jack Daniel's family. Wouldn't it be cool if you could have your own? You go, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. But to do that, how are you going to make the bottles? Are they going to cost a fortune? And we were crazy enough to say, oh, let's just figure it out. And so we did.
Okay, let me ask you this question. I'm a franchisee. I have 6 brands. I have to buy from you. Where do you get your supplies, and how do you ensure that you will have the bourbon for the growth of this franchise?
Well, it's a good thing, and we're perpetually working on this. We also have, so we have quite a large distillery here. We're closing in on 100,000 cases a year. We make of a product called Noble Oak that is available around the country. In fact, listeners can get it pretty much anywhere if you just look up Noble Oak bourbon. And we do that in partnership with Edrington. And so we buy from various vendors the young spirit, and then we do the finishing process here in Cincinnati.
Mm.
And so we're moving pretty big scales of volume right now. So I think we're like the 23rd biggest bourbon maker in America right now. So.
But what happens if, God forbid, something happened and your distillery burned down? What happens to all the franchisees? Where will they get their supplies then?
Well, first off, that's a very horrible thought that you just had there.
I understand that. I was trying to say, no, because I know franchisees that depend on several products have been caught where they've literally been out of business because the supplier is not there. So I have to ask the question.
Yeah. So, well, we've got, plans and fallbacks. We're also developing an additional location where it'll be done, which is really a separate supplier that you can buy from, so that we'll have at least 2 locations that you can get it from. So hopefully fire doesn't hit both of them. But it is it is a continuous issue. The facility that we've got, I mean, to give you some sense on it, the price went up 50%, just to cover the safety and the fire and the air systems that you need when dealing with alcohol. I mean, this is not something this is not a bootlegger. I mean, this is like, we have like real loading docks and forklifts and, pretty high volume equipment and safety rules and regulations that we follow. It is a very highly regulated industry, especially when you're in the finishing process of what we're doing because of the vapors and the rest of that stuff. So safety is obviously number one.
Well, let me, is there any way you, for instance, could create a sampler thing that people can take home with them to sample and put together at home, and then come to you and say, we want 20 bottles of this?
Yeah, so we do have because of COVID, when everything shut down, because we introduced this just before COVID. So you can see it was an awkward time. Um, and so that's what got us to create the Bourbon Wizard, where you could do it. But we also have a home party kit that people can buy that has a healthy amount, 200 mLs of each of the 6. And you can access a video and you get the ladles and the spoons and the stuff and the cups and everything you need to be able to have a home party kit. And so you can use the custom bourbon kit at home to make your own bourbon, have a party.
Your website again for our audience?
It's bourbonfranchise.com. It is the site where you can find the information about the franchising, and then you can get to the various others. Our distillery is called Brain Brew, but if you go to bourbonfranchise.com, it'll get you to all the different sites.
It's an exciting. It's an exciting concept. So we have just a couple of minutes left. Well, Doug, what would you like to leave our audience with?
If those people have got small businesses, as someone who started my first small business at age 12, and I've been in it, there's no better time to do it than now. There really is no better time to do it. And the challenge that you face and the issues that you face, I got it. I hear them. I know them. But there's nothing more fun than when you create it. And the key with all businesses is not just creating it, but continually to recreate and reinvent yourself. And so, part of this custom whiskey became big through the pandemic, because when it started, I told my team, let's not waste a good pandemic. Now, that may sound ridiculous, but the premise was, let's create something wonderful out of this, this horrible thing that we're all going through. And so reinventing yourself, redoing it, finding new things to do, or in my case, little did I know that I'd be running this big whiskey company now. But it's a ton of fun. And if you follow your heart and you put your time in, it's awesome. And so I would encourage everybody to, if you've got that dream, why not now and why not you?
That's a great thought. Your website, one last time for our audience?
Bourbonfranchise.com. I mean, it's so crazy that this is the only bourbon franchise that we can get the address bourbonfranchise.com. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Well, on that note, Doug, we say thank you for me, a very enjoyable time together. Thank you.